Hey guys, welcome back. We have a weekend energy update to get into as we continue to make our way through what may have been a pretty emotional week. We had strong Chiron influence this week, may have been pressing on our wounds. We had strong Black Moon influence, could have been kind of triggered about some things. We also had a Sun-Neptune square going on that definitely distorts our perception of reality. So it could have been a week where we just kind of felt a level of emotional overwhelm. We can put it that way. Now, Thursday, this was really the energetic high point of the week. Venus and Jupiter formed an exact trine together in air signs, which is still present through the weekend. This is traditionally one of the loveliest aspects in astrology. We also had the sun and the moon come into a harmonious trine on Thursday as well in fire signs. So I imagine that the vibe shifted somewhat between Wednesday and Thursday. May have been feeling a bit more optimistic on Thursday and heading into the weekend. But I will say this weekend, we do have a relative mutable grand cross that is presenting because the moon is transiting through the sign of Virgo, opposing Saturn and squaring both Mercury and Jupiter in an opposition in mutual reception to one another as well in Gemini and Sagittarius. This is a good weekend to make sure you are double checking dates, times, locations, directions. You know where you need to be, when you need to be there, you know how long it's going to take. Maybe leave a little bit early. Traffic could be kind of a mess this weekend. This is also a weekend where you might be experiencing a bit heightened levels of stress or anxiety, like nervous tension, maybe about what you need to get done, pressure about something, duty, responsibility. There could also be sort of an internal struggle going on between what we know we need to do, the work that needs to be done, the obligations, and also the desire to cut loose and have a little bit of fun and do something enjoyable. So could be kind of navigating a bit of that as well. But we've got a lot to talk about, you guys. So let's just get into our report of the weekend. It's also the winter solstice this weekend. We need to talk about what we have present on Saturday for the solstice because that determines a 6-month period of time. So lots to talk about. Let's get into it, you guys. Put all this together, see where we're at as we conclude this week and head towards next week. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2024. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the weekend where we are narrating the shift of the ages. In this video, we're going to talk about all the astrology that we have going on between Friday the 20th and Sunday the 22nd, which means we have a solstice that we need to talk about this weekend, Saturday, December 21st, solstice energy coming in. Solstices mark 6-month periods of time. So we're going to be talking about that in our report for today as well. Now let's get back into the astrology, pick up sort of where we left off in the last video. Again, Thursday was really the energetic high point of this week. It has been maybe more of kind of a low vibe week. We've been in a Sun-Neptune square week. Neptune, as I always tell you guys, it breaks things down. It dissipates, it erodes, it washes things away. Just this very watery influence, has to do with Pisces, the 12th sign of the zodiac, very spiritually oriented energy. It has been a very spiritual week, but when we're dealing with a harsh aspect between the sun, which is the life force energy, our vitality, what makes us feel full of vigor, and also Neptune, it can just be kind of depressing or just maybe have us a little bit out of it, feeling like we need some extra sleep. That could have been kind of going on this week. And we also have this other aspect that I talked a lot about in the last video that really could have been pressing on some wounds, hitting some of our triggers, having people maybe acting out, projecting in a bit of a more ugly way, just very sensitive, emotional energy. Chiron and the Black Moon coming to an exact opposition, marking actually the midpoint of a cycle that began back in February of 2020. So there could be some type of significance or relevance coming up, or there could have been coming up this week, having to do with maybe things coming back around that were pertaining to the winter of 2020. So, and aside from that, even if that isn't the case, this is just an energy that is making us feel more vulnerable with a Sun-Neptune square. That's kind of making us feel maybe a little bit more weak or disappointed or lacking satisfaction. The kind of schism between our vision of things or our ideal or what we think something should be and what we're having to face that it actually is could have been, a little bit more than we really wanted to handle as we moved through the week. So Not the easiest week on an emotional level to get through, but as I've been, also saying, when we're dealing with the Chiron energy, it's about healing, it's about release, it's about integration, transmutation, alchemization, um, and finally, breaking karmic cycles as well. Perhaps finally being able to heal something within us that's been lingering and causing problems for a long time, or finally ending that cycle, or finally gaining some type of an awareness maybe of where some of our own like internal hangups or something have been, that allows us to like redirect what we're going to do going forward, or break ourselves out maybe some of these more self-sabotaging tendencies that can come along when we're dealing with both a strong black moon and Chiron energy. Okay, so we've had that going on, and it's still exact as we move through the weekend. However, it's not being activated by the moon to the same extent that it was, as that energy was preparing to come exact and coming exact Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week, when the moon was transiting Cancer, squaring those planets, and then also came into Leo and conjoined Mars, opposed Pluto. That was also contributing to some of the more turbulent emotions that may have been going on this week. But as we hit the energy of Thursday, that was the exact trine and air signs between Venus and Aquarius, Jupiter and Gemini. Traditionally, Venus and Aquarius in a trine aspect together, lovely, lovely, lovely. One of the best aspects in astrology, very positive and uplifting, good times, good relations, good for money, good for luck, positive generally when we've got a Venus Jupiter trine going on. And the air signs too, this very mentally stimulating, like we're feeling positive about things, we're thinking positive about things, like positive mental attitude type of energy. So there could have been some type of shift that happened between Wednesday and Thursday, where we sort of went from like the bottom of the barrel to kind of like the top of the pile somehow. I don't know. Or we just shifted our perspective in some way that helped to uplift us. Optimism. We also had a trine go on Thursday between the moon in Leo and the sun in Sagittarius, both luminaries in a trine together. This is also, a harmonious aspect in the fire signs. This can be stimulating, uplifting, invigorating, kind of maybe bringing us back to life on some level after, again, being maybe quite depleted as we move through the early part of the week. Which brings us to where we're at now, Friday, the topic of conversation of this video as we move through the weekend. And we also are going to talk about the solstice on Saturday as well, and what I feel like that is generally bringing, actually, in terms of, basic themes for the next 6 months, because of course, again, solstices do represent 6-month periods of time between the solstice now and the one that will come up in June. Okay, so as we move through Friday, we may, as I mentioned, be in just a more uplifted space, especially mentally, than we were Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week, feeling more energized as a result maybe of that fire trine. But things do get a little bit sticky as we move through the weekend. We do have a relative grand cross that's setting up. I say relative because it's not exact. We have Mercury at 9 Sag, we have Jupiter at 15 Gemini, so there's a 6-degree orb between that opposition, but it is tightening. We have Saturn at 14 Pisces, and we are going to have the moon transiting through Virgo. That's why we're having the Grand Cross set up this weekend. It's simply because of the moon's placement in Virgo, opposing Saturn and squaring Jupiter in Gemini, Mercury in a sign of Sagittarius. So Virgo moon is really setting us up for the most this weekend. Now, when we're dealing with a mutable square, especially a mutable square featuring all the signs, it's going to be in our best interest to be as like adaptable and go with the flow of things as we possibly can this weekend. Also, make sure that you have times, dates, locations, directions, details of your reservations or whatever you've got going on correct. There could definitely be like some mix-ups with this square energy or issues that result from not paying attention to like getting the details exactly right. You know what I mean? Like you think you saw it was at one time, but it's actually at another time, or you thought for sure it was at this location, but once you're like looking at the reservation again, you realize like, oh no, it's actually not where I thought it was. Also, this could bring up issues with like traffic and stuff like that. So make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to get get to where you need to get to. And the more like alternative ways of doing things that you can have kind of like as a backup plan or in your back pocket, I think the better off you might be. You know what I mean? Like having plan A, B, and C to accomplish the same task is better than just having like a plan to accomplish the task. When we've got a Grand Cross and mutable signs coming in with Mercury and Jupiter retrograde and Saturn and the moon. Okay, so just things to keep in mind if you want to set yourself up for some type of relative success throughout the course of the weekend. Now, I do think this is, on the plus side, a good like brainstorming energy, problem solving energy, especially on Saturday as the solstice chart comes together. Being able with this Grand Cross and mutable signs to sort of like consider all angles of situations and like question things in the right way in order to come up with some type of reasonable functional solution. I do think that could be a feature of this transit as well. And it could also have to do with rules, restrictions, like red tape or reviews about something, but questioning things or having questions about things or questions that are coming up, that could also be something that this energy is just kind of bringing in a more prominent way than normal. There could also be, with the moon opposing Saturn in the sign of Virgo, a sense of like duty, burden, responsibility, obligation that's interfering with maybe our plans or our agenda somehow. So I do think that, you know, this could be indicating a bit of a challenge to like stay on task with things, to streamline through things without interference and distractions. Like in fact, with a Grand Cross and mutable signs, interference and distractions could be what is causing the conflict and the frustration and our ability to like accomplish anything this weekend. And as I said, again, like on that note, traffic could also be a little bit all over the place. So you're going to want to plan accordingly. And as I also mentioned before, like having a backup plan, having an alternative route, having another way to get the same job done, or maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other ways to get the same job done, that is probably going to be something that you do find works in your favor for some reason throughout the course of the weekend. I don't know. So Saturday, you guys, the moon is going to trine Uranus as well. That's another energy that expect the unexpected. So like sudden unexpected shifts and changes to plans, schedules, agendas, what we thought was on the itinerary when we've got the moon in Virgo ruling those things. It's also the details and the fine print, right? And in the trine to Uranus, which shakes things up and makes things a little wild. So another indication, okay, that things just may have a bit of an issue staying on track this weekend. And you know what, like, it's okay. We may just need to slow down. Like it does remind me sort of like a traffic stop when we've got a mutable energy at Grand Cross, because the mutable energy, like this is Gemini, which is about movement, and Mercury. I mean, Virgo and Gemini are both about Mercury, which is the fastest moving planet. It's all about things going back and forth and conversations and communication and the flow of information, the streamline, like trajectory of things. So when we've got those crosses going on and that interference, especially with Saturn that limits and restricts, now we're talking about Jupiter who's retrograde, and you know, Mercury, we need to remember Mercury and Jupiter are both in detriment right now. They're both in signs that they don't necessarily love to be in. However, the reason why I don't bring that up or mention it much is because I feel like the mutual reception between the two planets, the fact that they are, while they're both in their sign of detriment, they're also both in each other's signs. And I do feel like that definitely lessens the impact of them not being in necessarily like their most favorable signs. But regardless, that Jupiter expands things, and Jupiter is in Gemini, which is that mercurial sign about things moving forward and things moving quickly, and Jupiter is going retrograde as well, and Jupiter expands things. So things, again, like I said, it's just feeling like a little bit sticky out there. There could be some frustration, and also when we're dealing with both Mercury, well, not, I mean Mercury, but by way of both Gemini and Virgo, these are also the two signs that can have more to do with like stress and anxiety and nervous tension and stuff like that. So there could be kind of like an uptick in that as well. I would say also with the Uranian trine that is coming in there, Uranus also brings a level of nervous tension, especially when it's hitting a moon in Virgo. So stress Also tension and maybe just feeling a bit more anxiety about, especially Virgo, the moon opposing Saturn, like getting things done could be a feature of what we got going on this weekend as well. There could be a sense of pressure to do something accurately, get it right, do something correctly that is kind of causing this nervous tension or anxiety, or it could just be kind of a generalized overwhelm maybe about the tasks that need to be done, or the lists or the schedules or the chores, or like getting somewhere at a certain time, or a responsibility, duty, work also could be important somehow when we've got the Saturnian influence. Could also be with Mercury, Gemini, Virgo, a conversation or a communication that needs to take place that's just like maybe giving us some anxiety for some reason as well. So if you're feeling that, that is there's a heightened tendency for that as we go through this energy this weekend as well. Now, another way that this energy could be kind of playing out within us, the mutual reception that I just talked about between Mercury and Jupiter and Gemini and Sagittarius, I do feel like this energy over this past couple of weeks has been calling us to kind of like cut loose, have some fun, kick back, like maybe try not to take things exactly so seriously. And with this square coming through between Saturn and the moon in opposition as well, like this grand cross energy, that could also be the internal struggle, like the battle going on within us, work before play, really feeling like what we should be doing, but maybe we really don't want to be doing. So that could be an inherent challenge that this energy is presenting for us as we move through this weekend as well. Now, another thing that I already mentioned earlier, we do still have the exact opposition between the Black Moon and Chiron that is in effect throughout the course of the weekend. So there is still a greater than normal likelihood that we really may be in our feelings or emotions about something, feeling extra vulnerable, maybe you're triggered in some way, especially having to do with relationships, financial dynamics, legal matters perhaps as well, us versus other people somehow, themes having to do with victimhood or perpetrators or wounding, trauma, that type of thing. However, the moon is no longer in a sign that is activating or, enhancing that particular dynamic. Now we have the moon transiting through Virgo, setting up this other T-square, but the moon in Virgo and in the opposition to Saturn and stuff like that, I do think it should have us having a bit of a better grip on our emotions, feeling more grounded generally as we move through the weekend. However, changes in relationship dynamics, financial dynamics are still very, very highlighted right now. We could be trying also in this Grand Cross energy maybe to sort out some of the details or the fine print, or like what we're gonna do, maybe like the next step, what the plan is in terms of solving problems relating to maybe some of these changes in relationship dynamics that have gone on over this past couple weeks, or that are like actively going on and transpiring right now. And we do also, as I've mentioned, have this Venus-Jupiter trine in air signs that is still very much in effect all weekend long. This is the positive, beneficial, benefic energy that is like our saving grace throughout the course of this week. And this is actually really good for socializing, mingling, like wining and dining, shopping, being out and about. Very creative energy as well, mentally stimulating, chatty, just like generally amicable type of energy. And we do have a greater tendency of getting what we want when we have the Jupiter Venus trine energy activated as well. Although I will say it does make us want more, especially in relationships and like in terms of our earning potential and like the value and worth of things and what we want and what we want to obtain and what we want to get and like what we feel like we deserve and stuff like that as well. And it can also indicate high prices, material abundance, financial increases, and gifts. So expansion in a positive way, having to do with relationships, love, money, resources, assets, also things to do like legal issues and stuff as well. But we don't want to forget that Venus is not just like in Aquarius right now doing her thing. Her presence in Aquarius is activating another mutual reception. We've got the Mercury-Jupiter mutual reception that I've been talking about for a while now, but we also, while Venus transits Aquarius, have a mutual reception happening between Venus and Uranus, who is currently transiting Uranus's sign of Taurus. This energy is also indicating an active period of time that is changing things in relationships for the better though. And I'm telling you guys, and Uranus is a silver lining planet. Uranus brings blessings in disguise. This is the lightning striking the tower energy. It makes the changes for us that we haven't been able to make for ourselves, but it always is for the purpose of putting things right somehow, putting things how they need to be so that actually they can become so much better going forward. The relationship changes, like the financial changes, the value-based changes, the material changes, legal changes, like that stuff that's going on right now, it's for the purpose of making some type of correction. And with Venus in a trine to Jupiter, it is about growth. It is about success. It is about abundance and putting things in such a way that they can actually achieve that and are not going to be thwarted or stunted in their opportunity to grow into that maybe excess, but success is what I meant to say, to go into that success or abundance somehow. So don't be, try not to be dismayed, you guys. If you're going through some really difficult breakdowns or, endings or transitions in relationships or to do with like financial or material stuff right now, all the energy indicates it's because for some reason that was not or is no longer authentically resonating to the potential that you have yet to become. And it's for some reason being more of like an anchor holding you back in some way from transforming or growing or becoming whatever it is that this next new era of all of our lives collectively over this next 20 years, with Pluto also transiting through the sign of Aquarius, is requiring us to step into. So, you may not even know what it is yet, but I'm telling you, the way this energy is set up right now, it's like, if we go with the flow of the changes, if we surrender to universe, if we trust, that things are working in our favor right now, if we don't cling to what we know just doesn't fit us anymore. Venus trine Jupiter, Venus, Uranus, and mutual reception. These are necessary corrections actually to get us more of what it is that really does fit us and that we actually truly want, even if we don't necessarily know that that's what we want yet. So we need to keep in mind this is divine alignment. These are very fated times. I feel like the way that things are coming together right now, we have had an ongoing trine between Mars and the north node of the moon that can make things feel a bit out of control, a bit chaotic, but it's also an indication that there's some type of higher power or divine intervention or fated reason for the things that are happening, things that are transpiring now. And again, most importantly, with Jupiter retrograde, Mars retrograde, Uranus retrograde, the corrections that are happening now. And now I guess I want to get into talking about the solstice chart, because I do think, again, I know I've been saying this for several videos now, but it just is like a repeating pattern that keeps coming up, and it seems to be what this energy is indicating. And the energy that we have present for the solstice is more of the same. This is another 6-month period of time about making some major corrections to essentially our ability to expand, our ability to grow. We have a Saturn Jupiter square that we need to talk about. It's one of the angles in this mutable grand cross that is relevant as we move through the weekend. And this is an energy that we're going to be in for a couple of weeks. It's 1 degree orb out right now, comes exact, I believe it is on the 24th. This is actually a 3-part transit that is relating back to December of 2020. 2020 is kind of an extra relevant time right now for some reason, with the midpoint of the cycle between Chiron and the Black Moon that I've been talking about this week having began in 2020, and also this Saturn-Jupiter square that we've got going on right now. We're hitting the first critical point of that square, or of that transit, of that cycle, which is the first quarter square. The opposition will be the second point, the third quarter square will be the third point, and then of course they will come back into conjunction and begin a new cycle together. But that cycle also began in the year of 2020, in December of 2020. So we've got 2020 2 ways going on, reasons why it could be coming up. activated now and as we move really through the rest of this year. But this Saturn-Jupiter square that we've got going on, that we need to talk about, that's building, that comes exact on the 24th, like I said, it is the second of 3 squares that these planets will make, all of them being significant in relation to that 2020. So Jupiter and Saturn, when we've got a harsh aspect between these 2 planets, it is generally like a builder energy. It is a manifestation energy. It has to do with how we ground our vision of things into reality, and also the blockages to growth and to expansion that we need to overcome in order to grow and in order to expand. It's kind of like a fundamental energy that helps us to evolve in various ways, in various dimensions of our life, microcosm, macrocosm, personally, world stage. And another period of time that may be very relevant in the context of this next couple of weeks, specifically centering around Christmas Eve, Christmas Day period of time, the 24th, August like 16th through the 20th-ish. That's when we had the first hit of this energy, when Jupiter came into the initial square with Saturn. Now, this one was super intense. I don't know what you guys' August was like. Mine, I would not want to relive, but Mars was in a conjunction to Jupiter as well. So it was not just simply the Jupiter-Saturn square that we had the first time this energy hit back in August, but Mars was in a conjunction to Jupiter. So really probably intensifying the generalized tension, or, you know, just conflict-oriented nature, we could say, very heavy, tense energy associated with that entire month of August with that Jupiter-Saturn square coming in. Now, again, like, if we remove Mars from the equation, it's the second hit of this aspect I don't think is going to be so intense or severe perhaps as the first one was. It is, again, this, like, it's the discipline required in order to manifest things, essentially. It's manifestation energy. It's the manifestation principle. The challenge here is to turn the vision into reality. So I don't think it's going to be as, like, just challenging or conflict oriented as that first square when Mars was there as well. But I do think it's going to kind of push us to maybe, like, step past maybe our preconceived notions or limitations for ourselves and bring up, you know, challenges that cause us to maybe question or come up with solutions also in this very correction oriented energy about, like, how we are going to move things forward, how we're going to overcome this block or this restriction or this challenge in order to ground our dreams or our visions or our ideas into reality on the physical plane. Especially when we're talking about Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, that's like the big idea. And Saturn in the sign of Pisces, this is also the vision and the dream and the ideal. Saturn being the grounding, forming foundation, stabilizing influence, Jupiter being the expansive vision, and also our faith, trust, belief, and confidence in our ability to make that happen. Okay, so how do we build, how do we structure, how do we form the big idea into the successful enterprise? This could be maybe like a challenge that we're dealing with or something that we're struggling with internally over this next couple of weeks. And not only this next couple of weeks, but because this energy is present for our solstice. And I will also say, I'm telling you that this is 2 out of 3 hits of this energy. The third one actually comes in June of 2025, although these planets will have changed signs by then. That's going to be a very interesting transit because it's going to be the Saturn-Jupiter square again, but there's going to be a third party in this square as well, just as there was for the first Saturn-Jupiter square, and we had Mars in a conjunction to Jupiter square Saturn. But this time in June, it's going to feature Neptune and Saturn at like 1-2 degrees of the sign of Aries in a square to Jupiter in Cancer. So that is going to be very interesting to see how that energy plays itself out for our third square of this energy. But we talk about June, right? That's 6 months from now. That's the next solstice. So we've got the solstice energy going on right now with the square between Jupiter and Saturn Saturn while Jupiter's retrograding. That's why we're getting this second square. And then it's aligning with the solstice, the December solstice. And then it's going to be until June that we don't have the completion of this energy. And that is also when this solstice transitions into the June solstice. So I'm saying June, you guys, is when we're finally going to perhaps start making real progress in terms of being able to translate that vision or that dream maybe into something concrete, something real, something that's foundational and like really established and, you know, based and growing and stuff like that. But now this square in this period of time, generally from this solstice to the next solstice, as I said, again, I feel like it's about making corrections, figuring out how to solve our problems, how to overcome the restrictions to growth, how to use discipline, self-discipline, Saturn, like make our own rules, like set boundaries, or just figure out how to use our energy in a more disciplined way that actually promotes our expansion somehow. Also, reconstructing belief systems and understandings of reality is going to play into this somehow as well. I'm telling you guys, I really think that this particular Saturn-Jupiter square, with Saturn in the sign of Pisces, Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, it's something about shifting literally like our viewpoints on the foundations of reality and what we believe and what we think is actually happening, what we understand to be true, how we're using our mind, the way that we're thinking about things generally. I don't know, you guys, this is another energy that could be leading to some type of paradigm shift in our viewpoint on reality somehow. So this second square between Saturn and Jupiter, which I'm going to be talking more and more about, this of course is a primary aspect that is going to be with us over the course of this next couple of weeks, but I do think it's about, just to say it again, needing to correct the vision or the understanding or learn a lesson somehow in order to overcome some type of challenge or blockage to a growth, to a plan, to a manifestation that we maybe have been trying to get off the ground or bring into fruition since 2020. Don't be surprised if something that happened back in August needs to be redone, recalculated, like re-examined or reconfigured somehow moving through December, and again, like perhaps even into this next several months while this solstice period is playing itself out. And, you know, on that note, don't be surprised if it's like not until June that things really seem to start coming together and it seems like we are finally at a point where we can make progress and things start moving forward. I do think by the time that we get to the next solstice, once we move through June, once we have this third and final first quarter square between Jupiter and Saturn, that things somehow are gonna feel like they are finally progressing for us somehow. Okay, and of course, since we have a solstice going on this weekend, that means the sun is entering the sign of Capricorn. That's also bringing a bit of an energetic shift. Things are being changed right now. Things are being rearranged over this next 6 months in order to alter outcomes and trajectories and put things back on track. Remember the Uranian influence right now. And also, you guys, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. This Pluto is power in all of its forms, okay? In the sign of Aquarius, this is, I mean, it's lending power to Uranus himself, which is all about helping us to make the changes for us that we haven't been able to make for ourselves. So there is an empowered galactic universal effort for us to like open our eyes and see the light perhaps and like get back on track and with like our destiny or like with our potential or with like an inner purpose or something that we're discovering now, perhaps in a way that we haven't seen or felt or realized or experienced or been motivated to pursue in a very long time. I think minds, hearts, and belief systems are going to be drastically altered as we move through this next 6-month period. And also as we start heading through the next 20 years, generally, people are going to start acting radically different, I do believe, and changing their behaviors in a lot of ways based on these emerging changes within us and what we're realizing we need to conquer within ourselves or to change about our own, you know, behaviors or lifestyles or whatever in order to overcome that limitation or like conquer, you know, go through whatever it is to be able to experience this next phase of growth that universe is calling us all to right now as well. Another thing that I want to mention on the note of Pluto and Aquarius, if you guys have been hearing about all of the like UFO type of stuff, like the drones in the skies and all of that, I'm telling you guys, you know, I'm not saying that it's aliens, but I'm saying that we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and we are going through a 20-year Pluto Aquarius transit. That's fixed air, all right? So these things are not, it's not a coincidence that that type of thing is finding its relevance all of a sudden right now, and it's not going to go away. In fact, I think that it's going to become more and more of a situation that is interfacing with our 3D reality, and also leading to some of these novel or unprecedented or just shocking changes that we may be moving towards over the course of this next 20 years as well, that also may be altering some of our beliefs and ideas and perceptions and opinions and stuff like that. So I don't know, you guys, eyes on skies, we got Pluto and Aquarius. It's all about the air. This is fixed air, you guys. So it's all about what is going on in the air, what's going on in the sky, and it's also, you know, the way the energy travels through air, communication, like all that type of stuff is going to be very, very interesting period of time that we are heading through over the course of this next 20 years and on beyond. So just to close out this, I want to talk about the position of the North Node and the South Node for a minute in the context of our solstice chart, destiny and karma, where we're going and where we've been. The North Node is currently at 3 degrees of the sign of Aries. That Sabian symbol is a cameo profile of a man in the outline of his country. The South Node is at 3 Libra. The dawn of a new day reveals everything changed. So to me, symbolically, that is quite meaningful. It's going to have to do with us redefining ourselves personally. Also, perhaps our loyalties, as we realize that in a lot of ways, everything has changed and things are just not going back to the way they were, you know, before we understood maybe what they really are. It's that whole saying, you know, when your mind is stretched to a new dimension, there's no going back to your old viewpoint on things. That's what we're moving through. I think that's also a good way to kind of like encapsulate this collective phase of human evolution and conscious awakening that we are going through right now. We are all about to be stretched to some new dimensions, you guys, over the course of this next 6 months. And it's going to show us how much more capable actually of stuff we really are than maybe we thought we were. And that's also going to really shift things for us and open up a lot of doors and opportunities that maybe we just had discounted or counted ourselves out for. It's gonna be interesting, okay, you guys? So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna stop talking now, and I'm gonna grab a synchronicity card and get one additional final piece of guidance or advice, clarity. What should we keep in mind pertaining to this weekend, but also maybe to this whole next 6 months as we go from solstice to solstice? That one came flying out. And in consideration of all of the personal changes indicated in the energy right now and over the course of this next 6 months, look what our advice is, you guys. You cannot change another, okay? This is about our own personal upgrade, the changes that we are making, the adjustments that we are making. This is not a period of time where it is going to, we are going to be supported in our efforts to try to take our personal like template or mode or model of the changes we're doing and like overlay them over somebody else's experience. As I've been talking about in my videos earlier this week when I was talking about the Chiron influence, this is a period of time really where like we're going through things and having to make changes that no one can do or make for us, and similarly, we also can't like really help anybody else out making their changes over this period of time. The best way that we can, you know, play a role in that regard is to do it ourselves and lead by example. And we cannot, you know, transfer our personal like revelations in this energy, unfortunately, onto anybody else. Like, it's their personal journey at this point in time too. Okay, so you can't change another. Thou will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee, Isaiah 26:3. In your relationships with others, don't be possessive or try to make them do what you think they should do or act the way you think they should act. Never permit others to rob you of your peace of mind. Your peace and joy are in God and not in the words or actions of other people. Bless them and walk on. So this could also be helpful, I feel like, considering the like more interpersonally triggering nature of this Black Moon Chiron opposition that's also just hanging out so strong out there right now. We really need to try our best not to internalize the projections of others and, you know, to the best of our ability to do exactly what this card says and recenter in the understanding that your peace and joy are in God and not in the words and actions of other people. Bless them and move on. So there's our divine guidance for the weekend, you guys. And that's what I have to say. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope there was something beneficial in there for you. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also be interested in this type of astrology content. And leave me comments. I'm so grateful for your presence here. I really appreciate knowing what's going on with you guys out there. If you are having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. That is very valuable information to me, and I truly appreciate you guys so much. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group linked in my description box below where I post images of these boards. So you can go there if you want to see what this whole board says. And remember, Otter Spirit linked in my description below if you want to grab that holiday pack or get it for somebody who you think would appreciate it. And come back with me on Monday, you guys. We will have a brand new week of astrology to get into. Honestly, I haven't even, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I have looked ahead to some extent. I kind of know what's going on next week, considering that we have the exact Jupiter-Saturn square. So I'll definitely be back to talk about that next week. And I'm sure we'll have a bunch of other side aspects going on as well that I will also be here to talk about. So come back with me next week, you guys. You don't want to miss it. And I will see you then. So have a really beautiful weekend. And until next time, bye guys.